Hi, welcome back to the Spirit's Path. This is Dee, and today's tarot card of the day out of the Wildwood Tarot deck is the Moon on Water. And when thinking about this card today, with all the emotional energy that we had yesterday with the exploitation, and just being overwhelmed from walking out of the World Tree, thinking about it and meditating on it, it's that time of when you've gone through everything. And now it's that time of working on an inner transformation. It's kind of like a healing that's going on. A time to listen to that inner voice that you have, right? To reflect on what your soul is trying to tell you. Okay, you just walked out of the World Tree here 4 days ago. And, encompassing everything that you've done on the last 80 days, 85 days, 90 days of your journey, that takes a lot to just, soak in, to reflect on. And your intuition is going bonkers with this, this king of vessels, this heron, right? So, that psychic energy that you have, coming out of the World Tree and, feeling that you're exposed, feeling that you're vulnerable, in looking within, you're saying to yourself, you know what? I just need to get a grasp on what's happening inside with all this excitement, with all this anxiety, with all this nervousness of, being vulnerable. And just, not let anybody see that, okay? Now, the moon is all about emotional aspects of everything, and it's really going to be heightened. And, it's even heightened as we speak because we just had a full moon in Scorpio. So everything is going to be very, very heightened and very, very, awake, right? There's going to be a lot of awareness around that. So, this is a big time of emotional energy, as like I said, the moon controls those emotions. But it's also a time to look at those hidden desires, those hidden wants, those hidden needs that you have. And by looking inward on what's going on, we can, get a grasp of what's happening in our life. We can get a grasp of what we've, learned and gained in wisdom over the last 90 days as we start this new part of our journey. And once that consciousness, comes to mind and you feel it and you understand it, then you become, more in tune with the universe, okay? And, the moon's being shown down here on the water. And it kind of gives you that, yes, it's a full moon, but, the reflection off of the water looks like a primordial egg. And what that tells me is it's a new opportunity. It's a new time, a new quest. And we already know that because we just walked out of the World Tree, right? And, it's great that the universe is watching what's going on, between, spending time with ourselves underneath that moon and contemplating life, and what it has in store for us, as we move on. So, when we reflect inwardly and we start working on that inner transformation, we can chip away at that vulnerability that we have. We can look at that and just say, yes, I'm vulnerable, but I've gained a lot of wisdom. I've gained a lot of knowledge on my path, okay? And I know that I'm going to be stable moving forward because I've got that auroch that's sitting, on top of this hill. To me, that's Taurus energy, right? And we're in the month of May, and that's still Taurus energy as well. So, there's a lot of stability, a lot of security, going on. So you don't have to feel so vulnerable, being out there. Maybe you're vulnerable in your emotions, but you're not vulnerable in your thought process. You're not vulnerable in your creativity. You're not vulnerable in your stability or security, right? So gather those emotions, look within, talk with your ancestors, your guides, and just say, hey, I'm ready for this next part that's moving on. Guide me just like the traveler and, help me make this decision as I move forward. Do I cross this water or do I, go a completely different direction? Because right now there's no visible pathway for us to move forward. Okay. Yet the moon provides that guidance, that we seek to answer our queries. So look up at the, if you get a chance, if the moon's out, look up at the moon and just say, hey, guide me on my journey, as I'm ready to, begin something anew. So that's today's card of the day, the Moon on Water. Hit that like button for me, subscribe to the channel, share it with others, and give me a thumbs up. And before I leave, I want to mention that I've put a link in my description for my store on Stan Stores. So if you'd like a private reading, you know, go ahead and hit that link and it'll guide you through the whole process, you know, on getting that taken care of. So this is D for Spirit's Path. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care. God bless and stay safe, everybody.